Hey, welcome to episode 7. This is Jodi. This is the last episode of those episodes that go along with the sections of the book, because this is the last section of the book, chapter 5, section 7. Prioritize creativity. But never fear, I'm not going anywhere. After a short break this summer, I'm going to continue to upload some podcast episodes with topics that are pertinent to helping you along on your healing journey. And I'll also be interviewing people that have expert knowledges into things that is also going to help that journey. But in this episode, I'm going to explain why creativity is on this list of happiness habits and how important that it is. It encapsulates all the other things that we talk about in this book. So I'm really excited to bring this to you, to bring it all together, if you will. I'm also going to give you reasons why creativity is good for you. And then I'm going to share some examples of how I've engaged in creativity and how I've witnessed people engaging in creativity. And it's a long list and it's not near complete because there is unlimited ways for you to engage in creativity. But before we start, I just wanted to check in with you to see how you're doing. How's your anxiety? I'm wondering that if your anxiety went away, are you still listening to this podcast? This is something that people listen to when they want help, but are you continuing to listen to sustain these happiness habits? I hope so. I mean, obviously, if you hear me saying these words, you are still listening. And it makes me wonder. I wonder what makes people listen after they're feeling better. I'm hoping that you still feel like I have value for you and you knowing that because I helped you feel better, that my happiness habits might be right on par. And they are. This is from 25 years of working with people. They are things that work. And even when your anxiety is gone, and even when your anxiety is way down or your depression is all better, we still need to work hard at maintaining our happiness. We don't get better and then that's it. We have to continue each and every day to generate our wellness, to keep things in our life that help sustain that wellness and to continue to move out things that hurt us. Now, this is the thing is like we're living in this world and bad things happen all the time. And there's energies out there and we get, picked on or things happen or people are mean to us all the time. So it's not like you clear yourself and you're clean and now you could go on to life and it's better now. No, there's constantly things that we're processing and taking in that we have to process and get rid of. Hopefully, those things don't come all the way in. I like to say, if you taste something, if you tasted something new, here's a way to think about it. If you tasted something new and you weren't really sure how it was going to taste, you just take a little tiny bit on your tongue. And if you didn't like it, you'd spit it out. If it was really gross or really bad, or you didn't like it at all, or you thought, oh, you would just spit it out, not even taking it into your whole body and in your whole system. That's what would be great sometimes. Sometimes you have to take it in because it's a really intense experience, but sometimes people are mean and we don't even want to take that past our outer energy limit. We could say, is this for me? No, I'm not taking it into my heart. Okay, that's a little tangent there, but it just came up in this conversation about this happiness formula. Get rid of things that make you suffer. And those are constantly coming. We have to constantly clear them out and then bring into your life what makes you happy, what brings you joy, and then practice every day. So you're not done. And if you're not done, that doesn't mean something's wrong with you because you're not done. None of us are done. We will always continue to grow. We'll always continue to expand our knowledge, our consciousness, our skills and ideas. Those will continue to always expand. And if we stop expanding, we feel stagnant, and that doesn't feel very good. Because as you'll learn in this episode, We were made to expand. We were made to grow, to learn, to adapt, to be creative, to figure things out. Our brain biologically was made to do that. So that feels really good. Even when it's a challenge, it feels good. So even when you're being creative and you're trying to figure something out and it's a really hard thing and it's heavy and you want to know how to lift it and you're trying to figure out how to lift it, when you're solving problems like that, yes, they're a challenge, but also it feels good because this is what we were made to do is face challenges like that. There's a story, and I'm going to link to it in the blog post that goes with this episode, and that link's in the show notes. But there's this story that Will Smith tells about building a wall. His father made him and his brother build a wall when he was young. And it's a great illustration of this point. Having a challenge and figuring it out and having to learn how to do it and decide what to do and make those decisions is so valuable. And because of modern conveniences, young people don't have that opportunity as much as they had it in other generations. Even my generation, and I'm over 50, even in my generation, we've had so much modern conveniences. I haven't done really heavy chores and I've never built a wall, for example. All right, let's get into this episode. We have in this chapter, in this series, we have that we want to prioritize, we want to bring into our life. We said relationships, surroundings, movement, nourishment, rest, purpose, and now creativity. So what's creativity doing on this list? And if you've been listening to this whole podcast series, this is not new information. Creativity exercises that mammalian brain. And that mammalian brain, we want it to be really strong and really robust because that's our best friend in overriding anything that doesn't serve us. That reptilian brain that puts out that fight or flight. The fight or flight, we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. We don't want to get rid of that altogether. When we need it to survive, we want it online. So we're not trying to get rid of that. We want to, when it gets triggered, we know it triggers it and we could override it so we don't get lost in the anxiety. Remember what I said in the beginning, anxiety is a leftover fear response when you're not in physical danger. We want that fear response online, but we don't want that leftover fear response when we've decided we're not in danger. We want that mammalian brain to say, okay, everything looks okay. We don't need you. Thank you so much, amygdala, but we don't need you right now. If we robustify that mammalian brain, then it's going to be there for us when we need it. Your brain is like a muscle. You want to keep it strong. So you want to keep practicing, adapting, building skills, growth mindset, expanding what you could do, trying hard things. We want to do that because that is going to help us have a happier life, feel more comfortable, feel more confident, and absolutely have less anxiety and depression if we do that. And less vices. Right? When we're upset, we turn to things to make us feel better that actually make us feel more out of control. And if you robustify that mammalian brain, you won't do that. You would turn to things that actually make you feel better when you're not feeling good. Creativity is one of those things. Actually, everything in this chapter is something that we could turn to when we need help, when we're going through a hard time. We turn to relationships, we turn to rest, we turn to movement, we turn to surroundings that are comfortable and beautiful. We turn to nourishment to nourish our bodies. We turn to our purpose to give it some meaning. Now we're talking about creativity, which is really included in all of those if you think about it. So our brain was made to problem solve. We want to problem solve to keep that strong and keep that going and keep that growing. Creativity is another way to say problem solving. When you're making something or when you're designing something, you're making decisions all the time. Like, how am I going to do this so it works this way? You're problem solving. You didn't have an answer, and you have to get the answer. For example, if you were woodworking and you were going to make a box, you'd have to figure out if it's going to have a lid or not. You'd have to decide if the lid's just going to sit on there or if it's going to be hinged so it opens and closes. You have to figure out if you're going to lock it. You want to figure out if the hinges are on the inside and hidden or on the outside and part of the design. You want to figure out what color, how big. All of those things are problem solving. You don't have an answer. You have to make a decision and think about all of the options. So problem solving is about how else can I do this? And there's a brainstorming aspect, and that brainstorming aspect and thinking about how many different ways you could do something. That's the sweet spot. That's what's so brilliant. And that's what helps your prefrontal cortex develop and develop that brainstorming. I love brainstorming. I think people don't think about brainstorming and how powerful and how good it is for our emotional well being, how good it is for relationships. A lot of times parents, they lecture kids or they give advice when they're not asked for advice. And I think it would be more helpful and interesting if both parties decided that they would do a brainstorming session. So a young person's going through a certain situation and they're talking to their parents about it, and the parent says, "You should do this." Not helpful. But if the parent says, "Do you want to brainstorm on possible responses?" That might be something that a kid could get into. And you list a bunch of different responses. You talk about what the results might be of those responses. Brainstorming is excellent. Then it's not advice, it's co creating options. But it's a great model for us to remember that we could think of different options. This is the same skill that we use when we're making meaning. So, in certain situations, when something happens to us, immediately we start to make meaning because we want to make sense of it. We want order. We want to understand it. And we make meaning according to things that's happened to us in the past or beliefs that we have. So, if we have negative beliefs about ourselves, we could take that someone didn't text us back as they don't like us. Right. So we make meaning according to what we believe or experiences that we've had in the past. If you start to build skills in brainstorming and you enjoy it as a creative endeavor, that's going to translate to making meaning. Because when an event happens, there's a lot of different ways you could think about what happened. So if someone doesn't text you back, they could have gotten their phone taken away. They could be in the shower. They could have a meeting. They could have forgotten it, got way down in their thread because they were doing something else when you texted. They could have wrote their thing in the window of their text and forgot to push send. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why people don't text. They have to find out something and then get back to you. I don't know. There might be a ton of reasons. But when you build up that skills in brainstorming, it could help in those kind of situations. So creativity is you figuring out an answer to what you want to do. So it could be gardening, it could be crafting, painting, either painting and decorating a room or painting a scene on a piece of paper. There's tons of mediums that you could use in your art. Organizing, like organizing a closet is being creative. You have to decide where everything goes and where to put it back and how to make it more organized so you could see everything. Making videos, writing stories or poems, photography, decorating cakes or baking, selling things, cleaning, learning something, sculpting, planning parties, acting, dancing, giving gifts, woodworking, like I said, model building, drone flying, so many different things. Even sports are creative. You're thinking of plays, you're thinking of the best, you're making problem solving of the best decisions in the moment sometimes if you're in a match or making plays ahead of time in the practice. There is unlimited ways that you could be creative in the world. So let's look at the benefits of creativity, some of the benefits. We already said some of these, so I'm going to just consolidate and list them out for you. Okay. So creativity strengthens the mind. It helps you learn, it helps you expand, it helps you grow, and it helps encourage growth mindset. It also connects you with others. When you give things that you make to somebody else, that really is a bonding experience. And then often they appreciate you, which is a great reflection of who you are. So that relationship and that sense of yourself gets enhanced in that process. It gives you a purpose, it feeds your soul. This is what we want to do to survive. So our brain is made to do this. And when we do it, then our soul feels like we're doing what we're supposed to. That goes along with your purpose. It builds confidence because you start to see yourself as skilled and able, or able to figure out hard things, able to find the loophole or find the unique thing that no one else has seen before and create something unique. Makes you feel really good about yourself. It's fun often. It's fun. It's challenging. It's fun to find that piece that you've been looking for in an antique shop and then making it what you want to make it. You feel productive when you're creative. And then as a result, you have really cool things that you've made, or really cool things that you experiences that you've had. So, really endless, endless, endless benefits here. You crave creativity. You crave it. It's the most natural thing. So, again, even when something is challenging, it feels right because we were made to face those kind of problem solving challenges, not big problems, not injustices, not betrayals, not bad things that happen. We're not made to do that. We do have the skills to handle that when it comes to us because this world is an unfair place and these things happen. We don't want them to happen. They don't happen for a reason. We don't have to think that way, but bad things happen and we can decide how to go forward after those things happen. That's the key to happiness in life. I'm sad. I'm sad that this part of the series is over, but I feel confident that you have everything that you need to create a life that you want to create. And if you're still feeling bad, if you still have some anxiety and depression, guess what? You're human. You may still have a little bit. There's going to be some bad days and some good days. I don't want you to suffer though. If you have anxiety to the level that you're suffering, we can get rid of that. And it might be that you're still afraid of it. So when people come through my process and my books and they come to the end and they still have a little bit of anxiety left, it's because they're upset about that little bit of anxiety. So if you got rid of 90% of your anxiety, you still have 10% left, but it really bothers you. It's like, no, I don't want to have any. I don't want it. That's probably why you still have it. That little bit of upsetness is what is keeping it. So you want to get rid of that by being comfortable with yourself having anxiety. If you are 100% comfortable with yourself having anxiety, then and only then you'll let the anxiety go and you won't have it any longer. One more thing. If anxiety comes back, don't say, oh no, I didn't really get rid of it. I can't believe it came back. This is going to be awful. I'm going to be suffering for months and months. Don't say that. If anxiety comes back, know what caused it. I've taught you that. Expect that anxiety is going to come back sometimes because we still have the sympathetic nervous system. And so there will be stress and situations and perfect storms where you might feel anxiety one day. And it could bring terror to you that it's coming back, but that's going to perpetuate it. If you expected it, and you say, oh, I get it. I'm hungry. It's really hot today. I'm away from home for the whole day at the sporting event. And I understand why it's happening. It'll be gone by tomorrow. It will be gone by tomorrow. If you knew what it was, you said, wow, my adrenaline's up. I'm going to eat something good. I'm going to go to sleep tonight. I'm going to be fine tomorrow. It will not mess up your life for months and months and months. It will only be that day and that'll be done. But if you had anxiety in that kind of situation and you were like, oh my gosh, that's it. I didn't do it. The book didn't help me. The podcast didn't help me. And now I'm going to suffer for a really long time. And my whole life, I'm going to have anxiety. What's going to happen? You're going to have it for a lot longer. So use this podcast and book as touchstones. Know that if you got rid of it before, you can again. And when you're not afraid of it at all, it won't last more than that day. So, how you doing? You ready for this? You ready for this life? It could be amazing. You could bring joy into your life. You could bring good people into your life. Yes, there's going to be bumpy days and hard days, but you could do it. So that's the last season of episode 5. I so appreciate your attention, your sharing, your commenting on my blog posts, and especially, as you know, I need those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. This has been such a journey that you and I have had together. And actually, life is a journey of sustaining your wellness. You're not different. Happy people generate happiness. You could do it. Yeah, injustice is there, and let's commit to doing something about that. But in the meantime, keep working on finding your abilities within the limits so that you could expand those limits and feel free despite them. Keep practicing, and don't forget to hang out with me on YouTube and TikTok at Dr. Jodi, where I give more practical tips for your brain, body, and spirit. See you next season, and until then, let that you want to be shine through.